Hey there, everyone. This is Dr. Yap, and we are back for another Biz Tip Tuesday. Hey, everyone. This is Dr. Yam. Today we are going to step right on in, or should I say, march in, because today we start our 3-week series on magnet, March magnets. I can't even say it today. But I'm so happy to see you all. So again, today is Biz Tip Tuesday inside of our content creation tips and more community, as well as on my Keep It Simple Coach Facebook group and inside of YouTube. So thanks again for joining. So today we're going to step right on in. And we're going to be thinking about and talking about lead magnets and the benefits that they have. So if you are not already a part of Content Creation Tips and More Facebook group, please head on over to smallbizcommunity.com. And there is where you can join and get access to some of the free resources that I have available to you, as well as hand on over to my Keep It Simple Coach website, where you also will be able to get access to my weekly blog and other resources and services that I help solopreneurs, freelancers, and coaches grow their business with content marketing strategies and resources. Now, for those of you, if you already have not launched your business just yet, but you have a great idea and you need a little help, come on over to the Busy 9 to 5ers Hive. And over there is where I help my aspiring entrepreneurs create their escape route so that they can transition from employee to entrepreneur. So let's get busy. Now, a lot of you may not be aware of the fact that when we're thinking about marketing, content marketing in particular, that creating a profitable lead magnet is a strategy. And also remember that when we think about content marketing, we're thinking about it inside of the constructs of our content marketing ecosystem. And inside of our ecosystem, we have our 6 components. And the component that this is aligned to is creative visuals. And in this space is where you'll do your lead magnets, things like ebooks, infographics, webinars, presentations. Those components are all very visually and stimulating, as well as have written content as well. But just know that that is the aspect that what we're going to be focusing on today in regards to our ecosystem. Now, that being said, now we can get to some of the nitty gritty. Now, one of the things that I wanted to speak on is the fact that when it comes to lead magnets, it's simply something that you give to your audience for free in exchange for them performing an action such as giving you their email address, and then or sometimes even more information if they so choose, depending on what the value is that you want to be able to take action from, right? And so your main goal of providing a lead magnet for that perspective is that prospect rather is so that you can get them on your email list. So remember, in the past several sessions, we've really been focusing on what your email automation system is, the value that it has, how you can maintain it and create an ability to generate and service your customers as well, and then the automation and also cleaning up that lead magnet. So I have several other prior sessions that we've spoken in more detail about email automation. So please, again, inside of our community in the video library is where you will find access to some of the prior coaching sessions under Biz Tip Tuesdays. You can simply just type it over there. But it's important to think about your goal that the audience that you are subscribing to has. Now, competition is a little bit on the fierce side, so it's very important more than ever that you're going to be able to provide a lead magnet that really is going to resonate with your audience in a way that's going to make them put aside the fact that they're going to have to give you their email address in order for them to get it, right? So smart consumers today know and expect that you will market to them once they've given you their email address. So they already know the game, no shame, but at least set up for success in order to make that happen. So you want to overcome that. You're going to need to offer a lead magnet that is second to none, and it's going to solve a very specific problem for them. And I think the thing that's most important, something that I've learned in my past, is you can keep it simple. Yes, I know. Keep it simple, coach, kind of goes together. What can I say? But again, a lead magnet is generally going to be a digital product that doesn't cost a lot to produce. Again, smarter, not harder, and not a lot and not hard to deliver, i.e., a digital product, something that someone can simply download and access. Now, the reason is that you are giving it away for free. So if you're going to give it away for free, you need to keep it simple. So it would be hard, for example, that if you were to give somebody a physical product as a lead magnet, because then it was going to be more costly, then you're going to have to ship it and yada yada that goes along with it, right? So you're going to have that. But when you can provide something that is helpful, number one, useful, number two, that's going to solve a problem, number three, in a digital format, number four, it's going to cost you little to nothing extra in order for you to get more people to sign up for your particular product as a lead magnet. Now, remember that lead magnets are generally easy to download. You're going to do it in the form of maybe a PDF, a music, like an audio video file, email file, course could be a sequencing like that. We'll talk more about the different styles, video, any other type of file that's going to be small and easy to download and access at the recipient's request, either on their mobile device or on their desktop. Again, want to make it easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, an effective lead magnet will be targeted to that audience, that ideal person that you are speaking to, as well as something that's going to set them up to purchase more from you. So yes, this is also a component of your buyer's journey. And again, I've spoken about buyer's journey in the past. So again, type in buyer's journey inside of the video library in our content creation tips and more community, and you will be able to get access on that particular detail. But essentially, when we've talked even about sales funnels, it is also that journey of getting people to know, like, and trust you. So if they don't know you yet, the only thing they're willing to do is say, but you have something value to offer them by way of that lead magnet, then they're going to want to kind of ease into it. And this is the opportunity that you're going to be able to nurture them. So once you get them in that sales funnel, by way of that lead magnet, you're going to be able to start that journey. And then it's going to be on you to see how much value and added content that you can create for your intent that's going to continue to solve the problem, take them further down that journey in your sales funnel so that they will want to not only just hand over your email, but they'll even be able to hand over the credit card. That's the ultimate goal for you. Now, so we're going to be starting on that very top of the sales funnel. And if you caught our last couple of sessions on Funnel Friday, you too will be able to get some more details again inside of the content creation tips and more community. Let me just give you a link so you can see it again. There you go. Just go to smallbizsociety.com and it'll take you straight to our Facebook group. So you'll see that as well. Okay. All right. Now, let me go back here. All righty. So as I was saying, so in order to accomplish this, I'm going to break it down into 3 segments. And to keep it simple and easy. So for the next 3 weeks, this is what you'll have, set 3 segments, I should say, because some of you will be watching this as a recorded session, and you will also get some other resources. So there are 3 segments to this. There's plan it, create it, monetize it. Plan it, create it, monetize it. And so what you're going to know is the ins and outs of each part of the process so that you will have lead magnets that you're going to be able to be very laser targeted to your audience, keep it simple to create, and then easy to monetize it. So it's going to be worth it for you to start it from the very beginning as well. So let's start with step number 1 in planning it. Now, everything you do when it comes to starting something should have a plan. And the reason planning is really important, and I know a lot of people don't like doing this part because it means it's time commitment. But if you don't do it right on the front end, you're going to have a crappy outcome. So you might as well prepare to plan, because you know the old saying, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. plain and simple. That's how it kind of works. So the reason planning is going to be important to you is that you're going to want to end up knowing what your deliverable is actually going to look like. So if you plan enough ahead of time and you can visualize it, just as much as you want to visualize your journey for your sales funnel, you need to plan all the components. So the same thing even comes through that finished product of the lead magnet. You need to plan. So a lead magnet is an important product that you are creating for your audience. Now, that being said, there's a couple of things that you want to be mindful of when it comes to creating your lead magnet. And let me put some little keeps here. So, a couple of things you want to know when it comes to creating your lead magnet is that you want your lead magnet to be quickly consumable. You want it to be action oriented, call to action. You want it to solve a problem in a noticeable way. You want it to be relevant to your audience. So don't think so far out the box that people are going to be like, I don't know what this release is for. If somebody has to think twice about it, it's probably not a good lead magnet. And then you want it to, again, like I mentioned earlier, instantly available. That way, being a digital download is most ideal. And then free. Now, not all lead magnets have to be free, but for the purposes of this first one, coming down that sales funnel, you want to make it as affordable, and particularly when you're doing cold audiences that you haven't connected with yet. So that's why it needs to be something simple. Therefore, you're not putting a lot of time and effort in, but it should still be of value to you. And then you could put your time and effort into some of the more cost value items that we can talk about at a later date. Now, the process requires some thought, some study, and again, some planning. And like I said, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Okay, so right. So you've heard that saying before, so that's not new information, but oftentimes it seems a little confusing and hard to plan. But the planning process is the one that's most important that you're going to need to do so that you know the who, the what, the where, the why, the how. You're going to accomplish that goal in creating a lead magnet that your audience is going to want to have and hand over that email address to you. That's what's most critical. So you don't want to miss this part out. Now, you want to start creating a lead magnet without knowing who your if you're starting to create a lead magnet and you don't know who your audience is, then what their solution that you have for them, then what that lead magnet is going to look like, and then how you want to plan to create it, it's going to be way more difficult for you down the road. And so lots of stops and starts in where you're going to end up. So the thing you need to know first so that you can make a plan is who is your audience? What problem do they have? What solution can you provide them? And the format that you can deliver that lead magnet in, how you're going to deliver it in, and then whether or not you're going to start from scratch, repurpose something that you have, or maybe even use private label right content to create it. So let me go into a little deeper dive with each one of those. Let's start with who is your audience. This, again, people, is not new information. So for those of you who are new to our community inside of Content Creation Tips and More, I do want to welcome each and every one of you. And it's very critical that you do know who your intended audience is. And I know a lot of people like to say, well, I could do this for everyone. Yeah, but everyone's not going to listen. That's the critical piece that you need to know and understand. It's okay to specialize in something. Remember, the kind of analogy I make all the time is you go to your specialist when you go from a medical field, right? I'll even tell you about a dentist. So you go to your general dentist, right? Anybody can go to a general dentist and they'll service you to a certain point. But when you get to something that's a little bit more in what I call invasive, right? Where you're going to have to do a crown, or you're going to have to do thing where they have to do drilling or even an extraction. A general dentist doesn't usually. You have to go to an orthodontist, somebody who's a specialist. So the same thing is going to hold true for you. So you want to know who your audience is. Now, understand that you may already know this, but it's again very important not to skip this in your planning process and your product. The reason is that you want your free product to be targeted because you want to be able to speak in the tone and in using the verbiage that the person who you are intending to be that you're trying to target actually is going to be the one that's listening, right? So you want it to be purposeful for that particular individual. Not to say that others won't hear it, but you want to be a bit more targeted in who it is you are solving a problem for because everybody doesn't have the same problem. But there is a subset of people who do. So, who is your audience? Now, everything starts with your audience. If you don't know who your audience is, then it's going to be really hard for you to create anything. So, there is inside of our content creation tips and more community a workbook that you can get for free, i.e., my lead magnet, that you could utilize to identify and map out who your audience person is. So, it's much more easier for you to start with an audience that you want to work with, learn about, and also create something that they already want. So you kind of want to have all those answers rolled into one. Now, you can create and learn more about those audiences just as a strategy and in a couple of ways. You can join Facebook groups where you know that those are the people where they're hanging out, LinkedIn groups as well, going and attending live events and seeing where are the people, who are they, what are they talking about, what questions are they asking, right? You want to get to know your audience better. Now, when you do that, that means that you're looking for a metric. You want to be able to say if you already have starting getting some traffic to your site, then it's going to be important for you to do those some analytical review of your site. This is where Google comes in really helpful. So on your website, you want to make sure that you can use your Google Analytics is where you're going to be able to figure out the types of people who are visiting your site. So look at your metrics. This is what's really helpful. If you don't know anything about Google Analytics, shoot me a comment here and I will send you some information specifically with respect to that. And there's a really cool plugin for those of you who have a WordPress site that you can get for free from Google that you can install without having to spend a whole bunch of money. And again, it's free. So check that out. But you look at your metrics and be able to determine better who your audience is. Another thing that you could do in learning more about your audience is look at your competition. That's right. You got to know what your competition is doing so you know what you're up against. At least one or two or three of the top competitors who market your particular audience. You want to check out what they're doing, how they're doing it. Join their lists, join their groups, follow what they are doing. And even if you're more localized, you could do the same thing. Go and check out if you are, for instance, using it. Let's say you are in the massage therapy industry. You're a specialist there. Well, you're not the only one in the community. So check out where the other ones are located in your let's say 5, 10, 12 mile radius, right? Drive by their spaces. Are they getting traffic? Do you see the door coming in and out? Do you see people like, can you walk inside? What's the ambiance like? Are you getting a good vibe? Again, what is attracting those individuals? What words are they using in those communities on those lists? You can use, there's also this really cool site and it's called I Spy On. I think it's called I Spy On Age. ispyonage.com. I'm going to put a link right here. Hold on. Let me do that real quick. And then you can spy on the competition. Ooh, who knew? Let me see if I can pop that inside of here real quick. I'm going to put it inside of the chat. I don't know if it's going to. And let me see if I can put it in. Oh, here it is. I want to put it in the comments. There we go. Paste. Make sure I type that right for you guys. I spy on it. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. That's my little gift for you. So if you haven't already done so, check that particular site out. It's free, so maybe at least a freemium, and then you pay for more. So, but hey, a nice place, a way of checking out the competition. Now, in addition to that, you also want to develop your customer profile or your avatar. Again, part of that target audience. Who's that ideal customer? What do they look like? It's important that you understand the behaviors of your intended audience so that you can describe them down to what they're wearing, their age, their sex, what they want, their needs, their lifestyles, their desires, all that good stuff. Again, when you prepare that type of a profile for your audience, then you're one step closer to creating the perfect lead magnet for that intended audience. Another thing to keep in mind is build relationships with your customers. This is another great way when you're able to get feedback from them. So when you have visitors and customers and clients, it's important that you're going to be doing that nurturing and building those relationships with them. And then when you get into those groups and or those like live events and stuff, you can have more conversations and ask them questions and dig deeper as to their why, what's getting them frightened, what are they thrilled about? So that you can try to shape those kind of general topics and get them a little bit more whittled down. Another thing to do is you want to monitor questions, comments, and engagements. When you're inside of these groups, like Facebook groups, Twitter groups, Instagram doesn't really have groups, but LinkedIn groups as well. Also, email messages and other events. Notice what people are liking, what they're sharing. Again, when you can track and monitor those behaviors, it's also going to help you to figure out your audience even better and how you can communicate with them to draw them to that lead magnet itself. Do surveys, another great way to poll and get connections to figure out, again, what they're looking for and what they want. So when you can create a quick survey, like a Google survey or Survey Monkey, or I think Zoho is another place where you can do it. These are all have free type features and functions. Simply asking a couple of quick questions and taking that feedback in mind is going to help you again to kind of get inside their head, and then you can come up with a really great, amazing lead magnet that's going to be really what they're looking for that you'll be able to offer to them. Now, once you've done that, let me turn that off. Okay. So those are the things that help you get to know your audience better. The next thing that you want to be able to do is determine what problem does your audience face. And when you're thinking about that from a planning perspective, what you're really asking is, from time to time, there's going to be um, problems that your audience faces on a regular basis. And there's going to be numerous ways that you can be able to find out what those problems are that they are facing. And you want to look for a couple of different ways that you can discover their pain points and then their problems that they are facing themselves. So here are a couple of ways that you can figure out what are the problems that they are dealing with right now, because everybody's dealing with problems. So one way is to listen, again, back to those groups and being able to listen to what do people typically complain about, or what questions do they ask a lot. And if you're seeing the same questions asked a lot, that's an indicator. You want to watch in those discussions online, in those discussion forums, in those kind of chat portions, if you listen and you attend those live webinars, which, by the way, a lot of people miss that opportunity. I actually sign up for webinars, even if I know it's a subject I know a lot about. I'm going in to do my listening, active listening, to see what are people asking for or commenting on. And even as the person is facilitating the event, they're conjuring up questions themselves. If they're doing a really effective webinar, that's what they should be doing. And then you're going to be able to listen and hear and note what's being said by the people who you want to be part of your audience. Now, you also want to check out what products are your competition offering. Again, another great way to get some insight into that serious problem is to look at what the competition is actually offering and what does that look like. So from there, then you can create a better product or a better service to solve that same answer to that same particular problem that maybe your competition is even missing. You may be able to say, there's a space in there that I could fill, that yes, they answered that question, but I can answer it better and in a different way. So that's a great way of looking at the competition and what product they're offering. Another thing to keep in mind is going to be Don't make any assumptions. Even if you are part of an ideal audience and you have a great passion for them, don't assume you know everything. I know, but you're the expert. I know. But instead, take the time to kind of conduct that research so that your audience, you'll know more about your audience's pain points, their needs, their desires, and their wants. Always remember to also ask the right questions. When you ask people questions, it's important that you give them choices. That way you can kind of draw out information. So instead of asking, like, what's your biggest problem? Identify some problems first and then ask them how they solve them. That's a strategy. And you could even put that in the form of your survey question if you wanted to. That's a way of asking questions. So if you know what they're doing to solve their problem right now and it's not basically the right way, then you can use that information to create something that's going to be a better way of solving their problem. Because some people have got their first attempt in doing this, right? They're looking and thinking like there's got to be a better way for me to do what I'm doing, right? And so that's what people are trying to figure out for themselves. So, what can you help them to do better so they can get a better outcome? Think of it in those terms. Now, another thing to also keep in mind is what are some common things about your audience? Now, if you can narrow down some common things about your audience, that's going to help you discover a problem or come up with the better questions and also some solution. And of course, there's old adage, just ask. This is what the survey is going to help you to do. What's the biggest challenge when you do X, Y, and Z? Be careful about this when you're going into your groups and asking questions because sometimes it may seem that you don't want to be too evasive when you're doing that. But ask some basic questions and kind of see how many responses you're going to get back. Your Facebook groups in those communities are really good if they're active, that they'll be able to answer some of those questions. And then what if the problem isn't solved? So one thing to consider is what happens into an audience is if they can't solve their problem. So if there is, if what if that pain isn't resolved? And then how do they suffer for it? And then knowing this can help you to address that problem even better. So if you know that that problem hasn't been solved, then that's your opportunity to be the problem solver. So that's the whole reason about going into business, right? Is that you want to be the problem solver, and people want to know that you have an answer to a problems or question that they may have. Make sense? Okay. Now, that being said, you want to then go into solution mode. What solution can you provide? Now, in this particular case, what we're saying here is when you're looking at your audience's problems and you know you want to identify that niche, remember you want to whittle it down, that you're going to be able to fill in that hole, right, for that audience. So you do not want to be the one-stop shop for all, because otherwise you're going to spread yourself around too thick and then you're not going to get anything done. Instead, you want to ensure that you're matching the problem for your audience in that niche that you want to be in. So again, specialize and identify a subset of people. So I'll give you an example. I think I have here in my notes. So here's an example. If you are a social media manager and you want to focus on setting up and managing your customers' Pinterest accounts, you don't want to spread yourself thin and say, I want to do all the other social media accounts. Instead, you're going to say, I provide maybe meals for vegetarians. You don't want to venture into other types of meals, right? So you want to stick with that. And if you do that, then you're not going to want to focus on that particular problem. So you want to match and set up and be real specific for the audience that you want to do. So if you're a social media manager, say I'm a social media manager for Pinterest accounts, maybe for coaches, or I do it for first-time freelancers or for creatives who don't want to get into social media and do it. So again, you can really niche down. So you also want to match your skill to your audience's needs so that the solution that you're going to be able to provide is going to be, again, in your wheelhouse. Again, so if you are not a graphic designer, then don't offer graphic design. What would be the point in that? You want to be able to do things that you're going to enjoy doing, because otherwise you're going to feel like this is work. And the whole point of going into business for yourself shouldn't feel like work. You should feel like you're enjoying it. And you want to be able to do that as well. Now, that's not so you want to do stuff the one you're good at. You want to be able to share that you're good at it and you have that expertise and that you're sharing that information by way of that lead magnet. So it shouldn't feel like work if you're doing this as a service to others. Okay. And then the next thing you want to be able to do is decide what format will you create. Now, there's lots of opportunities here. So, what we mean by that, when we think about your lead magnet, now that you know who you're talking to and why you're talking to it, then the format you're going to deliver that particular problem, and you need to plan around that particular idea. So, you can plan a lead magnet to think about it in the form of different formats that it's going to be in, that's going to provide you with the ability to give that information over in the most effective way possible. So there's lots and lots of formats that you may find useful. And again, do the ones that you know how to do, that you will feel comfortable in. But here's quite a few that I'm going to list. So you ready? I'm going to knock them all down. Let me see if I can. I'm going to see if I can do this real quick. I'm going to copy and paste this and see if I can do it real quick inside of my notes. Let me put it inside the comments. Okay, so these are formats. There we go. So here are, I'm putting this in the chat so you'll see this in the recording session. So here are formats that you can consider when it comes to your lead magnet. Now, so that means it could be in the form of a PDF, a zip file, a Word document, an Adobe file, an audio file, a video file, an image file, an Excel file, because you could give them a spreadsheet. You could give them a WordPress template. It could be a printable file. It could be software, an app. It could be a webinar. So it could be an email sequence. It could be an infographic. It could be swipe files. It could be a free trial. It could be a lead magnet. That could be a simple checklist. It could be a coupon. It could be free shipping. It could be an exclusive deal. It could be a quiz. It could be an assessment. It could be a cheat sheet. It could be free training. It could be a case study, a white paper. It could be a recorded interview. It could be a toolkit. It could be free consultation. It could be an ebook or a report of some sort. So as you can see, there is a wide variety of types and formats that you can create your lead magnet that is going to be for your audience, that's going to be in a format that they can understand and that they're going to be able to access really quickly as well. Now, don't second guess what works and make it harder on yourself than it needs to be. Keep it simple. So if any of those that I just mentioned resonate with you, as far as, again, keeping it simple, if this is your first time doing it, then choose something that you can easily have information and that you can create around. Now, the next thing that you want to do with respect to that, let me go back to my banners, is you want to think about, will you repurpose something you already have? And what I mean by that is, do you want to look at some existing content that you already have? Now, when I say that, a couple of things that come to mind. In all those different formats that I just mentioned that you can create, and surely the list that I showed you, there's got to be something that you can think of. Could you think about taking existing content that you already have and repurpose that information to fill it inside of one of those other formats? So, have you done a webinar in the past? If you already have, maybe there's a way for you to repurpose that particular piece of content. You can bundle it together on that same topic, maybe get the transcript and create a report from that webinar. That's simple enough, right? You can even bundle the webinar that covers that topic with the transcript. Again, if it's useful information that people will want, they'll be more than happy to want to grab it. Okay, hold on one sec, guys. Sorry, somebody just destroyed my screen. Okay. Um, there we go. Sorry. There we go. Now, another thing to think about maybe is, do you have ebooks and reports that you have already created that you may have sold? Maybe it wasn't for free, but now you maybe can give a portion of it for free. If you're an author and you wrote a book, how bad would it be to maybe pull out a chapter and use that as a freebie? No one's known your book yet, so this is a great way to introduce them to you and the book and your subject matter. Not the first chapter, maybe, but maybe a segment that again addresses that particular need. If you have some blog posts, maybe you can turn a blog post into a video or training and give that away for free rather than just say, read my blog post. But, or you may be able to create a collection of blog posts, right? And then put them together and make a report or make an ebook or create an infographic around that. Maybe you have an interview and then you could use that kind of like maybe as a case study and use that to say how you problem solved and took somebody through a process by way of an interview and learn more about it. So there's a couple of different ways that you can look at existing content that you already have, and maybe you could simply just repurpose it. Now, another thing that you can also consider doing is either use a ghostwriter or start from scratch. So, ghostwriter, I like to call it, is when you're able to use private label content. It's a great way to create lead magnets. So, you can find private label right content on almost any topic. Or, again, like I said, you may be able to find someone that can craft it for you. If you don't feel as though you're a good writer, don't let that be an obstacle for you. There's always different ways to skin a cat. So private label right content is another great way for you to at least get your engine started. That you'll be able to have the permission to repurpose that content, give it a couple of tweaks, and move on. So the great thing about that is just that you can just add in some images, put your branding to it, and then edit it so it comes your voice, and then you're off to the races with that. Now, the other one obviously is, yeah, you can start from scratch. If you're going to start from scratch, then you need to understand how to do it and then the process you're going to use. And the fact that if you're not outsourcing it yourself, like I said, you might want to get a ghostwriter to do the writing for you. Then you need to know that it's going to take some more time for you to turn around and maybe a cost in order for you to create it yourself if you do it straight from scratch and do it as a DIY. The last thing you want to do is consider is, how are you going to deliver this content? Now, again, we're still in planning phases, so I want you to be mindful of the fact that this is also what you need to think of ahead of time. How are you going to deliver this lead magnet? And in this particular case, before you can even start to create it, understanding the format is going to be in delivering is also going to help you in how you're going to create it as well. So you kind of want to be thinking back, kind of backwards by design in a sense. So if it's going to be pretty easy for you to deliver that file in a short checklist or that report that you're going to be able to save as a PDF, then it's simple. If it's going to be something bigger like video files, then you're going to need to consider, again, how your audience is going to be able to view that video and the logistics on the delivering of it. So each one of those are going to take a little bit of thought and process on how you're going to deliver it. Now, if you have your own website, there are several plugins that you could use or shopping carts that people can simply click and drag and download. So you'll have those as typical resources. So if you don't have a software that's kind of like a shopping cart, then again, ask in the bottom and I'll be able to share some resources with you that you may want to consider. But again, it shouldn't take you and spending a whole bunch of money to get the software. Some of those plugins are free, or there's a freemium to it as well. So just kind of check them out and see which one works best for you. Because you want to be able to track it in order to download it. So there's still going to need to be a page where you're going to be able to use that piece. So just keep that in mind. Now you can also, if you wanted to, think about delivering it in even an email based type of like a drip series and being able to watch. And then you're going to send them emails every day. And so you'll be able to use sites like Amazon S3, which is like their server. Or if you're using audio, then you can use a private podcast tools. And I have some resources that I'll drop inside of my notes as well to this particular coaching session. So in case this is the case when it comes to that, here's a couple things to keep in mind. You want to be able to think about these, like this kind of workflow, if you would. So what that means is when you're thinking about your delivery, you need to think about a sales page or a pop-up for the freebie. Now, this could be done via lead pages or as simple as just a regular page on your WordPress site, or you can even just create a form in your email marketing software. The next thing you want to be able to think about then is the download page for that freebie. So once they've given you the email address, then you need to say, where are you sending them to actually get the download and share the link where they'll be able to click and download that particular file. The next thing is email marketing software to deliver the link. So again, if they've confirmed and given you the email address, you want to send them that thank you email saying, hey, thanks for the email and click here. So there's an email software that you're going to need to utilize. Most of you already subscribe to them. If you do not have an email automation system that you are subscribing to, drop me a comment here and I will be able to provide you with some resources. But again, the entire point of the lead magnet is that you want to get them on your list. So you need to have an email automation software package. Okay. And then the actual free file itself. So your lead magnet, now that they've given you the email and you have them going someplace to give it and to connect with it, then it needs to be in an easy enough format for them to get it. So this again, video file, PDF file, audio file, something that's not going to make it complicated that they can easily get. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you have your follow-up email sequence. Do not forget this part. This is where people, when the failure is in the follow-up. People fail, but that's where the fortune is. The fortune is in the follow-up. So as soon as you get them on the email list and they've downloaded it, then this is your opportunity to nurture them and be able to get them started. And if you haven't already done so, I do have a welcome email sequence template that is also inside of Content Creation Tips and More space. So do not forget to jump on over there. So inside of our society, you will find a link. And I think I might have, hold on a second. I think I have a link to it here. Here you go. If you go to bit.ly/DIY welcome, you will get access to my lead magnet, which is a free welcome email sequencing template. And you can have access to that. And I'll give you a good example of what it is, keeping it simple. But also know that this is also what you need to use as part of your follow-up. Now that somebody has opted into your list, you need to welcome them with loving arms and start to cultivate the relationship and then take them through the buyer's journey down your sales funnel so that they can become a paying subscriber. Alrighty, so don't allow all the little nuts and bolts that I have to share with you to intimidate you. Because once you do have this all set up and put together, it seriously can all be on automatic. That's the other great part about this. So you put a little planning in on the front side, and that way it's going to help you on the back end side. So just ensure that you have the right software that you pick out. It's going to help you create the processes that you need, and that you'll be able to deliver your lead magnet in no time. So in the meantime, you want to focus on what's important and get started in planning, and then you'll be able to go into the next step, which will be in our follow-up webinar, or rather to say coaching session. So there you go, my friends. You have everything that you could think about when it comes to creating your, at least I should say, your lead magnet from the planning step. So that's what we have for planning for today. If you have any questions with respect to that, always know that you can reach out to me inside of the Content Creation Tips and More Facebook community. You can reach me here on my blog, on my website here. And I want to say you can also reach out to me on any one. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are all available to you as well. So there you go, my friends. We have established another content creation ecosystem strategy. We're going to take you through those 3 steps today. We just happen to be on visual content creations. So if there's any other questions that you have, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Until next time, this is Dr. Yam, your Keep It Simple coach. Let's get busy. Bye-bye.